Okay, thanks everybody. Hello and welcome. Do you have your supplies ready? Do you have cardboard? Again, it could be a cereal box, a toilet paper tube, whatever you've got in that way, scissors and tape. And it's exciting to see where people are joining. Cape Cod, we've got local people as well. My name is Louise Sternberg, and I'm a member of the Alumni Engagement Team for the College of Engineering and Applied Science. And I'm excited to be here today to introduce Daria Kotys-Schwartz, Director of the Idea Forge, and a teaching professor with mechanical engineering. We also have Rebecca Komarek and Victoria Lonergan from the Idea Forge to assist. The Idea Forge is a flexible, collaborative space where students can imagine, design, and build solutions to meet a wide range of needs. And today, Daria will facilitate an interactive workshop on prototyping, where we get to build something with our own two hands. So for this workshop, please keep yourself on mute unless there's a call for questions. You can also submit any questions you have in the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Daria Kotys-Schwartz.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you today? Oh, can everyone hear me? Bex, Victoria, you've got me. Oh my gosh, I know we just told everybody to go ahead and put on mute. I'm gonna go ahead and have you take your mutes off for just a second so we can hear you. How's everybody doing today? You can also use your chat if you wanna give us a hello, how you're doing. Oh, do we have Sarah out there? We have Eric, Chris, Becky. How are you all doing? Yes, I got a thumbs up. All right, Eric, I've got you too. Do we have John? Nice. And then Eric, do I still have you? John, you're good. John, are you going to be joining us by yourself? Hi, Eric, how are you?
Hey, sorry, I'm in a car.
You're good that you're in a car. You might not be able to participate. Well, you can participate if you've got things in your car, as a matter of fact, but otherwise we'll be good. Sarah, do we have you with us also out there? I had a thumbs up. Chris Clark, I think we have you too. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get us started. Hi, Chris, how are you? There we go. And then we're going to see, let's see, is Sarah and Becky with us too?
I'm here. No
Hi.
camera, but I'm here.
Oh, you're good. I just want to make sure you can hear me also. And see, Becky, can you hear me too?
Yeah, hello.
Oh, fantastic. All right, you all, we're going to go ahead and get us started. So I am going to hopefully not have any problems since we already did introductions. I'll end up passing that by in just a second. Hold, folks, I'm just having, of course, I've only done this for a year teaching and still have technical difficulties. There we go. We're ready to go. All right, well, we always call this workshop Demystifying Prototyping. So what we actually are going to be talking to you about today is what really our wheelhouse is at the Idea Forge, which is this idea of prototyping in the engineering design process. So we end up getting students as well as entrepreneurs, alumni from all over the place, all with different ideas of prototyping. So one of the very first things we're going to be doing is kind of setting the tone for what prototyping means to us, going through a prototyping challenge, and then talking a little bit more about more of advanced areas or tools for prototyping. So since we already did introductions, I don't think that's going to be necessary again. We have 3 of us here today going ahead and helping out. Since we have a small group, we may not actually use the breakout rooms if we don't need it. We can always keep all of us together in a group like we've done in the past. So we're going to go ahead, Louise and Aaron, we'll see how we do if other folks end up joining us. If not, we'll stay in the main room and still be able to do the challenge together. Sounds good. All right, you all. So I am going to go ahead and run this in an interactive way, just like we do anytime that we're teaching this as part of a workshop or part of a class. So one of the first things I'd love for you to go ahead and do is use your chat if you can, or you're welcome to take your mics off mute. And I want to start with this idea of why do we prototype? So it's the very first place that we start when we're talking to anybody in the workshops. And the reason is we found the word prototype is nebulous. It's much like the word design. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. So I'm going to go ahead. Bex, do me a favor. As we start getting these coming in through chat, I'm going to have you go ahead and give me a heads up what's being said, okay? All righty, ma'am. Oh, John, did you have something to say? Oh, I think you might. So what do we have so far? Why do we prototype, you all? Becky, anything in chat yet?
Because it's fun.
Yes, that's exactly why. Goodness knows that's why I prototype, because it's fun. Why else do we prototype? What else do we?
We learn by doing.
All right. And what? Any other thoughts or ideas?
Test designs to see what works.
Fantastic. Testing
Try
design.
out different ideas.
Awesome.
Design is iterative.
Yes, that makes me so happy to hear. And is there anything else that has come up? Bex, why do we prototype?
I think you should tell us.
Okay, I will tell us. So one of the things that we talk to both our clients, we talk to our students about is this idea of, and we already heard it end up coming up, prototyping allows us to iterate, but the way we're able to iterate is it allows us to answer questions to move our projects forward. So many times when we think of prototyping, and the word is thrown around quite a bit, especially with things like 3D printers coming out. So many times prototyping is being thrown out in the news right now. But many times the question, we don't realize we're answering questions to go ahead and move our projects forward. And what we also many times don't realize is that we want to do this with the smallest possible investment of both our time and our money. Our time is precious, our money is precious. For engineers, for designers, for entrepreneurs who are using prototyping, the question is, what is the cheapest, most inexpensive, because we don't do things cheap, what is the most inexpensive way that you can go ahead and answer questions that you have about a design? And I use the word design very loosely. And so the reason we say that, you'll notice, we don't talk about only doing physical prototyping, but it could actually be also in the worlds of, in your electronic worlds, in your electrical worlds, your coding worlds, all needing to be able to do prototyping. But again, smallest investment of time and money. So the next question is, what is a prototype? Let's see if we can get some answers right now in that chat. What is a prototype? Bex, I'm going to have you call those out for me also, because I don't get to see my chat while I'm in this mode.
Yeah, happily.
What is a prototype? Anything? Did we get anything?
Everybody's thinking about it. They're typing. I can just feel it.
Oh, that might be why.
Is a prototype a model of a project? Something like a first draft?
Oh, I like the first draft. Or maybe it's the second draft or 10th or 30th. It just depends. It's kind of like a draft of a project. What else? What else did we get?
This one's a stumper.
It is a stumper. It is. This is one of my favorite. I actually intentionally stump people, especially in the evenings when people are tired. So.
All right, we got a couple more.
Oh, we did before I went forward.
We have a way to experiment, a trial, an artifact.
Nice. Fantastic. That was absolutely positively fantastic. One of the ways that we talk about prototypes is it being a physical or digital representation of critical aspects when you have an intended final design. So sometimes we'll prototype for multiple aspects, but again, sometimes we're asking a question that is only for a single aspect of a design. So prototypes, physical or digital representations, it doesn't always have to be physical. One of the things that we say, and we're hearing this, right? This idea of a trial, a way of experimenting. We trial things, we experiment things because we want to learn from them. Someone said at the very beginning, right? Prototyping is learning by doing, by going ahead and trying things, even in the most basic forms, not in a completely developed product going out to the market type of form. But early on, it allows us to start being able to understand the products that we're trying to develop. One thing we always say, the best thing about prototypes is they can be used internally or externally. Sometimes they're used to talk your team into your idea. Like we always say, it's a way to be persuasive. We actually at one point did 3 years worth of research at local companies, looking at what they did with their prototypes. And we would call them vessels of knowledge. And the reason we called them vessels of knowledge is that people would actually use them to talk other people into their designs. But you also can go out and get external idea information and feedback also. So you can use it internally with your team in a persuasive way, but you also can go out externally with that prototype and find out what people outside your organization think of it, whether people think it's a good idea or not. We say you can do prototyping for just about anything, for products, for processes, for services, for experiences. Products is what most people are used to for prototyping, but we don't always think about it in terms of doing a process. You can prototype just about any process in your life and do it iteratively. I've said the pandemic more than anything made me prototype my ability to stay organized. The prototypes I originally used when I was over at the office did not work when I had 2 children home homeschooling at the same time. That didn't work at all. And now that everybody is left again, as I told Becky today, I have 5 different lists. That does not work very well. So I'm prototyping, again, the process of how I keep myself organized. And for many of you, you may not realize services and experiences are prototypes. When you walk into an Apple store, or for those of you who maybe haven't walked in there for 15 months, but when you do, there is an experience you feel. When you go to Disney, do not think for a moment that every single one of those experiences there has been both prototyped and iterated so that it feels as authentic as possible for that ride. It's all about the experience when you walk in. Early prototypes, what we love about them, what we call pretotypes, make sure you're building the right it before you go and actually build it right, is what we always say. So we have some great examples. I think I have some folks on the line who actually will remember some of these things, which is really exciting. If I had a really young group, I know that there'd be things here that people wouldn't recognize, especially the first one, but I can't help but use it. All right, the Palm Pilot. For those of you who are ancient like I am, what you end up finding is the Palm Pilot was originally prototyped actually as a notebook, which is really cool. And they used it as a notebook to see, would this actually be, when they used the user feedback, a way for people to keep themselves organized? Some laparoscopic surgery devices, whoops, were originally looked at with nothing more than a clip and an expo marker. And for those of you who haven't seen the iteration that came out of the Google glasses, it went through hundreds of iterations that were clustering together different pieces of electronic equipment and off-the-shelf glasses. So these ideas of a prototype is, if I take this it and get feedback on it, will I be able to go ahead and build it right when I get to that point of my prototyping? So validating this market appeal, it's this idea of, hey, if I take this out to market, will people want it? Will they buy it? Will they actually pay for it? So what that actually looks like is, we're going to start you with your own design challenge. So for those of us who are joining from a car, we understand that this may not work, but you can totally do this with a sketch too, because prototypes don't have to just be physical. By the way, whoopsie. All right, you all, here we go. Next, what we said, you're going to need some scissors, you're going to need some tape, and you can use any kind of cardboard, stiff paper, whatever you have. You can even use multiple pieces of paper. And what we're going to do is show you that in 20 minutes, you can actually redesign a seating experience, but only with cardboard. Now, if you are with us in person, one of our favorite things to do is to go ahead and do the full seating experience in person. However, because we all are in this online environment right now, we're gonna actually put a slight twist on the seating experience instead, and specifically have you design a seating experience for a squirrel. And what does that look like, you might ask? We'll show you. For those of you who did not know, yes, a squirrel needs functional seating too. You may not know, but these really exist. And by the way, we prototyped this. How long, how many months was that, Becky, that it got prototyped before the mountain lion got it? Do you remember them telling us?
It was like 2 or 3.
2 or 3 months before the mountain lion actually got to the squirrel seating. I know, it was very sad. But this is what we're going to task you with as a challenge. And the reason is, who would have ever thought that in 20 minutes, you can answer questions that come around a seating experience and specifically for a squirrel? So we always say, And we do this, by the way, very seriously at the University of Colorado. We do this with our engineers as well as other alumni. What would this squirrel need for an excellent seating experience? So what we want you to do is keep the user in mind, because every time we do prototyping, the question is, are we prototyping for our end user? Now, I know what my seating experience might look like, my ideal seating experience, but what would a squirrel need for an excellent seating experience? Optionally, what we'll let you go ahead and do is, if needed, take 5 minutes to sketch out what would your squirrel's ultimate seating experience look like. Yes, this squirrel has another seating experience. Believe it or not, this is a thing. People have a lot of products out there for squirrels. You just didn't know it. This is what your takeaway of your prototyping experience was everything you did not know existed for squirrels, and it's out there. So what we're going to ask our folks to do, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but using the available cardboard or other devices, and like we said, this could also be on paper. And we are going to give you 15-ish minutes. I'm going to double check our time right now, to 20 minutes to design your seating experience. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is we'll be here with you to go ahead and answer questions. But even more so, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what some of our seating experiences look like at the end. Oh, folks. All right. I am going to go back and share screen so that we can go ahead and talk just a little bit about our prototyping tools. Now, one of the reasons we always start with prototyping, like we said, is what we really hope to do, if everybody has a takeaway from this prototyping workshop, is again, getting back to this idea of what are the tools we need for the questions that we have. So one thing that we like to really start with is talking to folks about the fidelity of their prototype, the resolution of their prototype. What do they really need to be able to answer those questions? Sometimes cardboard will do. Sometimes nothing more than an Amazon box, a cereal box, and 30 minutes of your time will allow you to answer those questions. Sometimes it may be a CAD model, which so many times, as my students like to say, they're going to go CAD it up, but it's 6 hours later before they're ready to actually go ahead and use that. So again, like we said, what is the smallest time and money investment you can make to answer the question? Now, it's not to say that you couldn't use both of these. The question, though, is what fidelity do you need for that question? And then as many times, how many different types of material and diverse materials can we go ahead and leverage? So like we said, high fidelity is really useful, especially when we have risky concepts. We talk about that. High fidelity, you can imagine if you're in a boardroom and trying to sell your idea, a high fidelity model is going to build more trust than a cardboard model. Cardboard can answer those questions, but may not actually give you the trust that you need for a risky concept. However, we can get really good user feedback from our squirrels, for instance, by what we went ahead and built. So like we said, we started with cardboard, zip ties, duct tape is an easy way, but then you start getting into the more high fidelity models next. And we always talk about 3D printing is almost more of a medium fidelity. What we're starting to see is companies, and I'm super excited, Chris, you're on right now, Ball, our aerospace companies really are leading the way for being able to do really high-end 3D printing. Fused deposition modeling is what is everywhere and all over the news, where we actually see things going ahead and being built in layers. We gave an example here of everything that many times people are building now in their homes with an FDM machine. Lowe's bots like the Taz, you can have one in your home for a couple $100s now, which allow us to do everything from keychains to being able to give us models quickly from what we produce in a 3D environment. SLA, stereolithography, is another option. So what you're seeing here, Form 3s, we run these quite a bit on campus to allow us to go ahead and have a different type of 3D printing, different resolutions, as well as when the equipment is running properly, also giving us some tighter tolerances than we get on those FDMs. Now, again, interestingly enough here, we always ask our students, do you need FDM? Do you need 3D printing? Is it your least expensive in both time, materials, to be able to go ahead and answer those questions? because sometimes they don't actually need what we have here. Other times they do. You know, if you're trying to go ahead and really have a better understanding of your fits, if you're trying to go ahead and instill confidence, you end up moving to this medium resolution. And then the next thing we talk about, though, is when you start needing more high resolution. When you start needing to actually give more time, more money. What you're looking at here is actually a cruise ship simulator that we built. And it was to actually go ahead and test software that was developed by Micromotion, so that they had a better understanding about the efficiencies that were able to be produced on cruise ships. Because of the questions that they were asking of both the software and of the Micromotion equipment, this did require more machining, higher resolution of prototypes to be able to go ahead and actually answer the questions that they have. So you start to see the difference from cardboard to this mid-level 3D printing, but now we're starting to see 3D printing that can go very high level and can now actually start matching the same things that we're doing in machine shops, in welding shops, when it comes to 3D print or injection molding at the same time. All higher resolutions of prototypes, and dependent on the questions that you have. Sometimes you have questions that require that you start going to these higher resolution prototypes. For our folks that are out there who say, that's great, but now the question is, how do I sometimes know what questions? I know that we are just about out of time, but this is what I'm hoping to send some of those who are interested. For those of you who are doing high-level work around prototyping, one of the other things we want to go ahead and introduce you to, and we'll make sure that this gets sent to everyone, is about being able to develop questions. What we've actually started to do is a prototype canvassing tool, specifically centered on making sure you can go ahead and develop questions that you want answered around your prototypes. So you can start to see we've gone a very large spectrum of going from having a prototype that is being made from cardboard all the way up to professional prototyping canvases that allow us to answer the questions that we have. So for those of you who will be sending this out that you're interested in, I'm happy to answer questions after this workshop also, but you can start to see we're looking at what are some of the assumptions that we make, the feasibility or the technical aspects and the viability, the business aspects of those assumptions, and what are the questions that go with this, right? So this is, again, products, processes, this can be experiences. And then also we usually start this with a problem statement. What it ends up looking like, for those of you who are interested in, is that we'll go ahead and we start planning for this minimum viable prototype that we need to be able to test what our solution or what our questions would end up being. This is what it ends up looking like when it's filled out, which I'm going to go ahead and make sure to send you all so you get a chance to see it. This was actually done by one of our student teams. And they had a problem statement of creating a more efficient vertical axis sail turbine blade to be used in third world countries. So they were able to go back and make assumptions about the shape of the current frame. Was it the most appealing? The low noise that was desired. They were able to ask a question and went with that is, how can we reduce noise from vibration and flapping that went with this vertical, went with the vertical turbine blade? They also wanted to know is how can we avoid curve opening? If you want to have a sense of what this actually looked like, over here, this is what their actual prototypes looked like. And these were the questions that went with it, right? How to ensure the sail opens at a larger scale. How do you increase that stiffness without adding too much weight? And in each of these slides, it'll walk you through actually getting a chance when you want to start using both test plans as well as prototyping at a much higher level. This would be your next step, is being able to use something like a prototyping canvas. All right, I am very conscious of everyone's time, but knowing we had all levels and all families here, part of this workshop was to go ahead and make sure you had the opportunity to go ahead and see, that you had the opportunity to go ahead and see different levels of prototyping along the way. Questions that we might have from folks, questions. Pause share, there we go. There we go. How are we doing on time? Victoria, I'm at 5:02. I just saw the time, so I'm going to be super conscious of everybody's time because we're supposed to end at 5 o'clock. All right. How are we doing? Any questions for anyone?
I will definitely share your slides with this group and the other registrants. And I just want to thank everybody for being here today. It was a lot of fun. I think this is one of the most fun. So thank you, Daria, and Rebecca, and Victoria. And a shout out to Erin Judge, who's here. She's
Hi,
with the alumni engagement team too. She's so awesome. So thanks everybody so much. It was really fun.
For our folks that joined us today, thank you so much. Jack, I see you with us also. Thank you for taking time to be with us and participating in our building. And thank you also to our Alumni Association for the invite. We appreciate it.
All right, take care, everyone.